Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be discussing the topic human reproduction. Okay, so in the previous sessions we have discussed about the pre-fertilization event. In this session we will be discussing about the fertilization and implantation. So what we have discussed till now, we were discussing about the pre-fertilization event. So what were happening in the pre-fertilization? There was the formation of the gametes. Okay, so we can write gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is the formation of gametes. Clear? So male gamete is known as the sperm, and okay, what is the female gamete? Female gamete is the ovum or the egg. Okay, we have also talked how the sperm and the ovum is produced. What are the steps involved? So we have talked about the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So gametogenesis, this is of, okay, if we talk about the males, then we call it as spermatogenesis, and when we talk about the females, okay, we use the term oogenesis. So both of these involve the formation of male sperm and the female sperm. Okay, so in spermatogenesis, male gamete is formed, and in oogenesis, female gamete is formed, which is known as the ovum. Clear? We apart from this, we have also talked about the structure of the sperms, how the sperms look like. Okay, then we have also talked about the menstrual cycle in the previous lecture. We were talking about the stages which are involved in the menstrual cycle. Clear? So we talked about the bleeding phase, follicular phase, okay, then ovulatory phase, and then finally the luteal phase. We also talked about the different events that are happening during the menstrual cycle, okay, related to the uterine, okay, membrane, which is known as the endometrium, the innermost layer of the uterus. Then we also talked about the follicle, ovarian hormones, as well as the pituitary hormones. What is the condition of all of these, okay, during different stages of the menstrual cycle? Clear? So now in this lecture, we will talking about the fertilization. So these were the pre-fertilization events. Next is the fertilization events. Fertilization, we are going to talk about the fertilization. So what is fertilization? What is the simple definition of the fertilization? It is the fusion of the two gametes, which are male and the female gamete. So we know that humans, they undergo sexual reproduction, and sexual reproduction, it involves two parents. So what are the conditions required for sexual reproduction? We have already discussed this also. One is the two parents are involved, means we can write biparental. Biparental means two parents are involved. One is male, another one is female. And second is the formation of gametes. Gametes are formed. One is male gamete, another one is the female gamete. Okay? Then it involves the fertilization of these two gametes. Clear? Third is the fusion of these gametes. Now, fusion of the gametes, this is known as fertilization. Okay? I would also like to mention that sexual reproduction, okay, it causes or it leads to or it is the source of the genetic variation. Okay, sexual reproduction is the source of genetic variation. It leads to genetic variation. Why? Because the formation of gamete takes place through the process, okay, through which kind of cell division? Meiosis. Okay, formation of gametes, you can write here, involves a type of cell division which is known as meiosis. Now, meiosis involves recombination as well as the crossing over. Clear? This you already know. Meiosis, during meiosis, what happens? There is recombination as well as crossing over. So there is the exchange of the genetic material, and here two parents are also involved. Clear? So this leads to the creation of the genetic variation, and the offerings which are produced, these are better adapted to the changing environment. Clear? This was the pre-fertilization. Now we are talking about the fertilization. How can we define fertilization? We can write here fusion of the two gametes. One is male, another one is the female. So this is male gamete. This is how male is denoted. This fused with the female gamete. Now both of these gamete, as they are produced by meiosis, so meiosis is known as the reductional division. Reduction of the chromosome takes place here. So what happens? Both of these will be haploid because they are produced from the diploid cell. Okay. So this male gamete, which is known as the sperm. This is the male gamete. Okay. Male and the female gamete, they fuse together to form a diploid structure that is known as the zygote. Okay, so zygote should be a diploid structure. Clear? It is a diploid because it is formed by the fusion of the male as well as the female gamete. Male gamete, you can write it is the sperm, and the female gamete is the egg or the ovum. Clear? Now, we will talk about in this lecture about fertilization and then implantation also. We'll talk about that also. After fertilization, there is the implantation. Clear? Now, let's start with the lecture. So, during the copulation, also known as the coitus, okay? Coitus is also known as the sexual intercourse. It is also known as the sexual intercourse. So what happens? The semen, which consists of the sperms. So we've already talked about the components of the semen. It consists of the sperm, it consists of the fructose, citric acid. Okay. So this semen containing these sperms, this is released by the penis into the vagina. So this process is known as insemination, the transfer of the semen into the vagina of the female. This process is known as insemination, and this happens during the coitus. Now, the sperms, these are motile. Clear? We have talked about the structure of the sperm, so it consists of the tail. So this is the tail of the sperm, which helps in the swimming of the sperm. Because ovum is non-motile, so sperm has to reach the ovum. So because of this, the sperm is motile, and the energy for the swimming, these are provided by the mitochondria. Okay, we have also talked about this. Sperm also consists of the mitochondria, and mitochondria, it generates energy in the form of ATP. Clear? So this ATP is used for the swimming of the sperms. Now, the sperms which are motile, they swim rapidly, they pass through the cervix and they enter into the uterus, and finally they reach the ampulla region of the fallopian tube. Clear? So fallopian tube, what was the regions of the fallopian tube? First was the infundibulum. Okay, we are talking about the regions of the fallopian tube. Fallopian tube is also known as the oviduct. Okay, it's also known as the oviduct. So infundibulum, okay. So what was infundibulum? Infundibulum is the flask shaped. It is the funnel shaped. It is funnel shaped, okay, region of the fallopian tube that is near to the ovary. The region near to the ovary which is funnel shaped, this is known as infundibulum. And infundibulum, it consists of what? It consists of finger-like projections known as fimbriae. What is the function of the fimbriae? So fimbriae, that helps in the collection of the egg. It helps in collecting the egg when it is released during the ovulation. Clear? So this is the first part. Second is the ampulla. So ampulla is very important because fertilization takes place in the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. So ampulla region, this is the longest part of the fallopian tube. Okay, it is the widest part also. It is the longest and the widest part where fertilization takes place. So fertilization takes place here. That's why sperm which are motile, they have to reach the ampulla region, because in ampulla region both the gametes are present, male and the female. Clear? Here the egg is also present here, ovum. Fertilization takes place here. Clear? Both the gametes are present here. Ovum is already present here, and the sperm, they swim and they reach the ampulla region, and then the fertilization means the fusion of the two gametes takes place. Clear? Now next is the isthmus. Now what is isthmus? In isthmus, what happens? It connects the ampulla to the uterus. Okay, so it is a narrow connective tissue. Clear? So we call isthmus as a narrow connective tissue. Which connects what? It connects the ampulla to the uterus. You can write it connects ampulla to the uterus. Okay, so the sperm now reaches the ampulla region, and here you can see the sperm in this figure. Okay, this is the fertilization going on. Sperm cells, lot of sperm cells you can see here. Okay, they are trying to fertilize the ovum, but only one sperm is successful. Now the ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampullary region where the fertilization takes place. So fertilization takes place in the ampulla region. Now fertilization can only occur if the ovum and the sperms are transported simultaneously to the ampullary region. So for the fertilization to take place, okay, there is one condition, that both the ovum as well as the sperm, they should reach the ampullary region of the fallopian tube, okay, simultaneously. Then only fertilization will take place. Clear? Now, this is the reason why not all copulation lead to fertilization as well as the pregnancy. Okay, if only the egg is present, then also there will be no fertilization. If only sperms are present, then also there will be no fertilization. Okay, so not all copulations or the coitus or sexual intercourse, they result in the fusion of the gametes, and then after fertilization, what happens? Pregnancy. Clear? Where the development of the embryo takes place. Now, the process of fusion of the sperm with the ovum, this is known as fertilization. Clear? This we already know now. Now, what happens during fertilization? The sperms come in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum, and it induces changes in the membrane that block the entry of the additional sperms. Clear? So, what is happening? If we talk about the layers of the ovum, so what happens here? The outermost layer is known as the corona radiata. Okay, corona radiata is the outermost layer, and it provides protection to the ovum. Clear? It provides protection as well as support, you can write. Now, the layer beneath the corona radiata, this is known as the zona pellucida. Zona pellucida. Clear? So, zona pellucida, this layer is present beneath the corona radiata. Okay. One more thing you can write about corona radiata is that this layer is formed by the follicular cells. Okay, now coming back to zona pellucida. So it is present beneath the corona radiata, and it helps in the, okay, you can say the acrosome reaction. Yeah, so what happens here? We have seen the sperm, it comes in contact with the zona pellucida. Clear? So it helps in the interaction of the sperm with the ovum. So this is one function. Another function is the acrosome reaction, because acrosome consists of the acrosome enzymes, and this helps in the breakdown of the wall. Clear? And it also helps in the fertilization. And it also prevents polyspermy, means fertilization of the ovum by many sperms. So this layer also, it prevents the polyspermy, because here you can see, and induces changes in the membrane that block the entry of the additional sperm. You can write, thus preventing polyspermy. What is polyspermy? Fertilization of the ovum with more than one sperm. Clear? What are the roles here? It helps in the interaction of the sperm with the ovum. Then next, it helps in the acrosome reaction, and it also prevents polyspermy. Okay, then next is the plasma membrane. So beneath the zona pellucida, plasma membrane is present. Okay, so these are the three layers of the ovum. So sperm, it comes in contact with the zona pellucida here, okay, of the ovum. Here you can see these are the cells of the corona radiata, which are formed by the follicular cells. Clear? So here you can see sperms. Many sperms are trying to fertilize the ovum, but only one sperm is successful. Clear? Now, so this ensures that only one sperm can fertilize the ovum, and the secretion of the acrosome, which consists of the enzymes. This helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum. Clear? So the zona pellucida layer. Okay, zona pellucida layer. This is made up of the glycoprotein. So it is a glycoprotein layer. So this can be broken down by the secretions of the acrosome. Clear? So secretion of the acrosome helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. Clear? So what happens after this? So this induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. Clear? Secondary oocyte is formed from the primary oocyte. Okay. So there was primary oocyte. Primary oocyte. Okay. It divides to form the secondary oocyte. And secondary oocyte, it will further divide to form the what? The ovum, the haploid ovum, as well as the second polar body. Clear? So the second meiotic division is also unequal and results in the formation of second polar body and a haploid ovum. Clear? So this is second meiotic division, means meiosis 2. So what happens? The primary oocyte, it undergoes division to form the secondary oocyte. Okay, and a small body is also formed, which is known as the first polar body. This first polar body, this is quite small. Secondary oocyte is a big, so that's why the division is unequal. Then there is the second meiotic division. So this is the first meiotic division. Then secondary oocyte will be haploid. So primary oocyte should be diploid because meiosis takes place in the diploid cell. After first meiotic division, the chromosome number are reduced. So secondary oocyte should be haploid, and then second meiotic division takes place. Second meiotic division, this is same as the mitosis. So this leads to the formation of second polar body. So this is also unequal division because a small second body is formed, second polar body, and what else is formed? The ovum or the ooted, or the egg, clear, which will be haploid. So here again coming back to this, so this induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte, and the secondary meiotic division is also unequal and results in the formation of second polar body and a haploid ovum, which is also known as the ooted or the egg. Clear? Now soon the haploid nucleus of the sperm and the ovum, they fuse together to form the diploid zygote. So what happens after this? The nucleus of the sperm, which is haploid, it fuses with the nucleus of the ovum. Here, and what is formed? A diploid zygote is formed. So this is the male nucleus, this is the female nucleus present in the ovum. These fuse together to form a diploid structure, which is known as the zygote. Zygote is the unicellular diploid structure. So how many chromosomes will be there in the zygote? Okay, here you have 23 chromosomes. Here also you have 23 chromosomes. So in total, 46 chromosomes are present in the zygote. Zygote is a diploid structure. Now, one has to remember that the sex of the baby has been decided at this stage. So sex of the baby has already been decided. Okay. So zygote will develop into male or the female. This has been already decided. So this is decided during the gamete formation. Clear? So now let us see how. Now, as you know, the chromosome pattern in the human female is XS, and the male it is XY. So human females, they are XX and the males are XY, we know. So what will be the gametes produced in the female? So gametes produced will be X. Okay. All the gametes will contain the X. Okay. This is the female gamete. Female gametes are homogametic. Means they produce only one kind of gametes. So this is known as homogametic. Only one kind of gamete is produced. Whereas male, they can produce either the X gamete with the X chromosome, or they will produce gamete that will consist of Y chromosome. So 50% of the gametes will contain X chromosome and 50% of the gametes they will contain Y chromosome. So this is known as heterogametic production of two kinds of gametes. So males are heterogametic in humans and females are homogametic in humans. Clear? Now you can see if we use this Punnett square. So here we can write the male gametes. Here we'll write the female gametes. What were the male gametes? X and Y. Female gamete is X and X. So what is produced here? This will be female XX. This will be male. This will again be female. And this will be XY. This will be the male. Clear? So you can see the offerings. Okay? Or the progeny. The sex of that progeny is dependent on the male. Okay? Because male is producing two kinds of gametes. Male is producing two kinds of gametes. So the sex of the, you can say the baby, the newborn, this is determined by the males because they produce two kinds of gametes. So this will be male. Okay. And these one will be the females. Clear? So therefore, all the haploid gametes of, okay, which are produced by the, which are present in the egg, which are produced by the female, they have the sex chromosome X, whereas in the male gametes, which are the sperm, the sex chromosome could be either X or it can be Y. Hence, 50% of the sperm, they carry the X chromosome, and while the 50%, they will carry the Y chromosomes. That's why male are heterogametic. Clear? Now, after fusion of the male and the female gamete, the zygote will either carry XX or XY. This I've already shown you. Depending on whether the sperm is carrying the X chromosome or Y, depending on whether the sperm carrying X or Y chromosome fertilizes the ovum. Clear? So ovum, here all the gametes will contain X chromosome, but the sperm will either carry X chromosome or it can carry the Y chromosome. Now, what can happen if X chromosome, okay, if this sperm fertilizes this ovum, then you will get XX. If this gamete fertilizes with this one, then you will get XY. Clear? So this will be female and this one will be male. Clear? Now the zygote carrying XX will develop into the female baby, whereas zygote containing XY, this will form a male. Clear? Now this is why scientifically it is correct to say the sex of the baby is determined by the father and not the mother. Clear? Here you can see. Now let's talk about what is happening after the fertilization. Now zygote has developed. Clear? Now the zygote is formed, which is a diploid structure. Now there are divisions in the zygote. Further, what happens? The zygote also divide mitotically. Clear? So the mitotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct. So oviduct is also known as the fallopian tube. Okay? Is this clear? this region of the fallopian tube, which is funnel shaped, this is known as the infundibulum. Okay, and it consists of this fimbriae, which helps in collecting the egg when it is released from the, or when it is released during the ovulation. It is released from the ovary. Clear? So here you can see this egg is this enters into the infundibulum. It is collected by the fimbriae. Then what happens? Okay, there will be fertilization in the ampulla region. So this one is the ampulla region, is quite wide and it is the longest part. In the ampulla, the both sperm and the egg cell, they will meet each other and they will undergo fertilization. Means they will fuse with each other and resulting structure will be the zygote. Clear? And this is the isthmus region. So this isthmus region, this connects the ampulla to the uterus. Clear? Now mitotic division starts at the zygote, move through the isthmus of the oviduct. So this is the isthmus region. Okay? And this is known as the cleavage of the zygote. Clear? So as the zygote moves through the isthmus towards the uterus, because isthmus connect the ampulla to the uterus. Okay? So there are mitotic divisions in the zygote, which is known as the cleavage. And what is formed? A 2, 4, 8 cell, 16 daughter cells are formed, which are known as the blastomers. So the zygote divide mitotically. You can write this zygote, which is a diploid structure. This undergo mitotic divisions. Okay, which results in the formation of first 2, then 4, then 8, okay, then 16 daughter cells, which are known as the blastomers. So these are known as blastomers. So mitotic division gives rise to 2 cells. It is known as equational division. From 1 cells, 2 cells are formed. So at the end of mitosis, 2 cells are formed. So from 1 cell, 2 cells are formed. From the 2 cells, 4 cells are formed. Okay. And like this, 8 cell will be formed. And then like this, 16 cell will be formed. 16 daughter cells. And these are known as blastomeres. Now the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomers. Now we call this zygote as embryo now. Now embryo with 18 to 16 blastomers, this is known as the morula. Here you can see. Okay. These are the blastomers, daughter cells. Whenever the embryo consists of 8 to 16 blastomers, you call that stage as morula. Now what happens? The morula continues to divide and transform into blastocyst. Clear? So this is the image showing you the blastocyst, and it moves further into the uterus. So from the zygote, okay, morula is formed, and from the morula, finally, blastocyst is formed. Clear? So you can write like this: from the zygote, it undergoes mitotic division, form 18 to 16 cell structure, which is known as the morula. From the morula, blastocyst is formed. Now let's talk about this blastocyst. So the blastomers in the blastocyst, these are arranged in an outer layer known as the trophoblast and an inner group of cells which are attached to the trophoblast, and these are known as the inner cell mass. Okay, so what happens? This blastocyst, okay, this blastocyst consists of the blastomeres. So these blastomers, these are arranged in the outer layer, and this outer layer is known as the trophoblast, and they also form the inner group of cells which is known as the inner cell mass, which later on develop into the embryo. Now what is the role of this trophoblast? So trophoblast layer then attaches to the endometrium. Okay, endometrium is the innermost layer of the uterus. Okay, and the shedding of the endometrium, okay, it leads to the bleeding. It leads to the menstruation. Okay, whenever there is no fertilization of the egg, then what happens? We have already discussed. There is the shedding of the endometrium because endometrium is very thin and this leads to the bleeding. Clear? So the trophoblast layer then attaches to the endometrium and the inner cell mass. This gets differentiated into the embryo. Clear? So after differentiation, what happens? Each cells, they start performing different functions. Clear? Now finally the embryo, we can say the inner cell mass, they differentiated into the embryo. Now after attachment, the uterine cells divide rapidly and covers the blastocyst. Clear? So the blastocyst is then covered by the uterine cells. Clear? Now as a result, the blastocysts become embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. Clear? Here you can see this step H. This is the blastocyst implantation. So this process is known as implantation, where the blastocyst, it gets embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. This is known as the implantation. So here step H, you can see this one. This shows you the implantation of the blastocyst. Clear? So this is called implantation and this will lead to the pregnancy. Clear? Where the development of this embryo will take place. And you know what is the gestation period? In human females, it is 9 months. And after 9 months, there is a childbirth, which is known as the parturition. Clear? So this is clear how the fertilization takes place and how the implantation takes place. So what we have studied in this lecture, we have studied about the fertilization and the implantation. So what is happening during the fertilization? How can you define first fertilization? It is the fusion of the gametes which are produced during gametogenesis. So male gamete and female gamete, they fuse together with each other to form the zygote. Okay, what is the product? What is formed after the fertilization? Zygote is formed. Clear? Now, what is the site of fertilization or where fertilization takes place? So fertilization takes place in the ampullary region of the oviduct, also known as the fallopian tube. So you should remember all these. Question can come from any of this topic. The fallopian tube, also known as the oviduct. Then, okay, after fertilization, we have seen zygote is formed. So zygote is a diploid structure. It consists of 2 chromosome sets. Clear? So we have seen the infundibulum, which is the funnel-shaped structure. It catches the egg during the ovulation. Then what happens? The egg, it will reach the ampullary region and simultaneously the sperm will also, it will swim and it will reach the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. So it is, okay, very important, okay, for both of these male gamete to reach simultaneously in the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. And how the sperm is transferred to the female genital tract? Through the process known as insemination, where there is a release of the semen from the penis. The penis is, to the semen is released in the female genital tract. This is known as insemination. So for the fertilization to occur, what should happen? Both the both the gametes, okay, should reach the ampulla or the ampullary region simultaneously. Okay, this is clear. Now, after fertilization, what happens? There is the formation of the zygote. And then we have also talked about what happens after the formation of zygote. What are the events? Zygote, it divides mitotically by mitosis. Mitosis is known as equational division. Okay, so the initial condition was diploid, so diploid condition will be maintained. Zygote divide mitotically and it forms, okay, 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, and 14 and 16 daughter cells, which are known as the blastomers. Now, 18 to 16 celled, the structure containing 18 to 16 blastomers, this is known as the morula. Now, morula further divides and it forms the blastocyst. Now, blastocyst, okay, some of the, so what happens within the blastocyst? Some of the blastomeres, these are arranged in the outer layer. This is known as the trophoblast. Okay, and some of the blastomeres, this form the inner cell mass, okay, which further develop into the embryo. Clear? And what happens? This blastocyst, this attaches to the endometrium, which is known as implantation. Okay, how can you define implantation in simple words? The attachment of the blastocyst, okay, to the uterine wall, to the endometrium. So this is known as implantation. Okay, so this is clear. So you talked about fertilization and the implantation here, and we will cover rest of the topics in the next lecture. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Okay, thank you very much for listening.